Suns fans, you know what time it is in the PHX.
Empire of the Suns.
Phoenix Suns.
Empire of the Suns.
The Empire of the Suns podcast is brought to you by Sonic. Drive to your nearest Sonic location and don't forget to order your half-price drink or slush anytime in the Sonic app.
Hello there, and welcome to the Empire of the Suns podcast. My name is Kellen Olson, joined as always by Kevin Zimmerman. What's up, man?
Howdy. I think we all agreed this season would come with a boiling point that didn't really happen last year. It was just like, oh, you got swept in the first round and you're done. And this season did come to a boiling point because, as you can imagine, as an observer of this situation and this team, 2 years of the same thing is gonna lead to some madness, I guess. Is madness the right word? I don't know.
I don't know, yeah. I don't know if I particularly agree with that. Like, everyone's like, there's 21 games left. Like, what's gonna happen? It can only get worse. And it's like, I don't know, man. It's just already really bad. Like, what's bad is that they have three more. We're recording this on Monday afternoon, and they have their second of 4 straight national TV games. So, like, the amount of noise around them is just going to continue. And then eventually people just aren't going to care anymore. And I think we're there. Mark Jones and Corey Alexander were awesome on ESPN. I watched the game at home. I was homesick yesterday. And they were really alarmed by the shift in tone from the crowd around like the mid-third quarter. And it's basically the knowledgeable longtime fans, the people who aren't just at the Suns game to have a nice night or whatever, know exactly when the breaking point is in these games. And they've seen it so much that as soon as the turnover started, they weren't really bringing energy anymore. Even like when like a 3 or 2 went in, they weren't really making that much noise because they knew further problems were going to pop up. They did. And then the game was over. I think that we're just at the point of apathy now. And I think that's a very aggressive word that people might get angry about. And I totally understand why, because you can take apathy as me saying people don't care. Not saying that. I'm just saying that it's kind of just like set in, like the acceptance of this ain't working. We're probably not even going to make the play-in. We know what's going to happen this summer. Kevin's going to get traded. They're going to try and trade Brad. They're probably not going to be able to trade Brad again. And then they might fire their head coach, and that's where it'll go from there. And I think everyone has come to terms with that. I just saw this totally coming after the Grizzlies game. It was a carbon copy with everything happening from last year, with the Pelicans loss late in the year and then the embarrassing back-to-back against the Clippers. It was embarrassing how they lost on Thursday, and then I thought that they had like a good win, if you want to call it that, on Friday, where they like kept it at a blowout from pretty much the entire game, but it was against D-list guys, like fringe NBA guys for the most part. Which is exactly how that Clippers game went, except it was far more ugly in LA when they were playing against like Brandon Boston and those guys. I think Brandon Boston was on the Pelicans roster too or something. But it's just apathy, and like the team has too much of it now, and it's just too inescapable. Now it was pretty clear that they had some building over the last couple of weeks and maybe even months, but it has really like set in right now. So we'll see how the last 21 games go. I'm still not going to sit here and say for sure that like they can't make the play-in. Yeah. Because it's just like, I think it has to be realized that we're talking about the 10 seed here. We're not, look at the 10 seed in the East right now, for example. Like Atlanta sold hard with all of their team, and they're going to probably be in the play-in because below them is Brooklyn, who wants to do everything in their power to lose, and Philly, who just shut down Embiid and wants to continue to lose because their pick is only top 6 protected. And so, like, Sacramento could win enough, probably. San Antonio might win enough to get back into it, but if you just win like 6 of 8 somewhere, which again they did last year, that was last year. It's like we didn't get to this point because they ripped off some wins at the end of the year. Like they could do that again. We'll see.
Quarter of the season left. I guess it is what it is a good way to put the basketball product, but of course, I was referencing off the jump here, the noise, as you call it, hasn't happened until Friday. So, quick timeline: Thursday night, bad loss to the Pelicans. Zion goes crazy. I, from observing on my couch, I listened to Book, KD. I actually took KD's comments when asked about Mike Budenholzer trying to tell the team, like, we're going to want to remain optimistic as much as we can. And KD actually was like, I don't want to say the wrong thing and get this out of context. I'll just agree that we have to be better. To me, that was more like I don't know what to say. Like, he was very honest with it, but it's more like, to me, something's up here. Book going out of his way to make some comments about talking or not talking and all that stuff. We later find out on Friday might be a reference to some convo he had with his coach. But I don't know which one seemed bigger in the moment. I think the KD one for me. But from a standpoint of Book's never really done that. Am I incorrect? And Book's never really said things like that even insinuate something's off. I'm probably wrong a little bit.
He's done that. I saw people reacting to Thursday and saying like they've never seen him like that. I saw Brendan Clean say that. I saw Cam Cox say that. Two people who are like highly reputable and great at what they do. Obviously, I'm not saying that to besmirch what they do.
This is subjective too, yeah.
But it's a very subjective thing. Thank you for saying that. I needed that because it's like I was like, oh yeah, it's pretty bad. He just like alluded to the coach and the rah stuff and just like the trying to keep everyone afloat. I mean. I've heard him say stuff like that before, maybe not to that extent where it's like pretty clear who he's calling out. But I mean, he didn't say chillin' randomly last year. Everyone thought that was just him saying something randomly. I bet it wasn't. I don't know anything, but I bet it wasn't. I bet it was to talk about something else that I don't know about.
Never got reported.
But I will say that this has been like the first time this year where I did not get the vibe, based on everything we knew about Budenholzer as a coach coming in, that he was the right guy for the job from a personality standpoint. It did not seem like to me.
I think you said that before when the hire was made, actually.
It was when Vogel got fired. I literally wrote in the story, I was like, is Budenholzer the right guy to like be the accountability guy in the locker room? I don't think so.
He ticked off Giannis, who
and then
is the nice guy. Like
90 minutes later, Woj reports that he's the front runner, and I'm like, okay, I guess he's the guy. But we've seen that come to fruition, and Budenholzer throughout his career has held accountability, and there are ex-players who will tell you that he is accountable and does have those strong conversations with guys. But it was just more of like if he was going to be the right guy to like keep everyone accountable. I don't know if there is such a person that exists, but I didn't feel it at the time, and this is not me doing like the rah-rah told you so thing. It is more of just like at the time of the hiring, we had concerns about how he was going to be able to hold the team accountable and how the team was going to respond to his messages. And clearly they are not responding well to them anymore. Again, like I almost said a bad word. Whoa.
Whoa.
All these freaking quotes coming out like the last 2 weeks and like all this freaking Haynes brief. And what were they doing 2 months ago? They stopped shooting threes.
Yeah.
Like they just stopped shooting threes. Watch the basketball game. That'll tell you when they quit on a head coach.
Yeah.
That's when they did it. Like I don't.
It progressively getting worse. Like this, I guess it happened.
I don't think it
last
is. Because like they're actually like principles wise, they're kind of doing stuff on the court. But it's, I guess like the quotes are getting worse, but on the floor it hasn't gotten much worse. In terms of doing what he wants them to do, and I'm not just talking about threes, I'm talking about some of the other stuff. Like, look at Memphis. Mm-hmm. Look at the start of the New Orleans game on Thursday on Sunday, excuse me. KD picks up Reed. They flip the matchups on Randall. They're executing really well to limit the paint, which is clearly what they wanted to do and what Budenholzer has always done in the past.
Yeah.
Like that was like this is a Mike Budenholzer defensive game plan from him and his staff, and they're actually executing it well.
Yeah.
And they did for a whole half, and then they threw up on themselves, which is just pretty much always what they do in some fashion.
That is what they do. Yeah, I mean, I think it was worse than it seemed from the outside last year, probably. It's worse this year, and it just something got out. And like Book and Bud did the best they could to play damage control in the last few days. That's great. I'll give them credit for, again, playing pretty decent against a very not loaded up Pels squad in the second of that back-to-back against the Timberwolves in the first half. But I don't know. Even in the Timberwolves first half, it's like they just shoot themselves in the foot to such degrees when you should be up 15-20
All you have to
based
do
on
is
how good they were playing.
all you have to do is tread water and wait for them to stumble. That's just all you have to do against this team. Like, they will eventually do it. 8 nights out of 10 they'll do it. There's a 2 nights out of 10 when they won't. There was the Pistons when in Detroit when Book and Katie went crazy and they weren't really doing anything else particularly well, but they weren't screwing anything up.
Yeah.
The numbers that I have in the story that's about to go up is since the All-Star break, it's 7 games. They are giving up 22 points per game off turnovers. They're only generating 10 on the other side. Those are both last in the league, both.
Yeah.
And that's just, again, that's intent, physicality, focus, all this kind of stuff. It's just the same. Like, point guards, coaches, whatever. I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care. It's about focus and just execution and all that kind of stuff. And like, I'm not trying to only blame the players here because it's blame game season and it's going to be blame game season for like 2 more months. And I'm totally ecstatic, as you can see. I just can't wait to blame people for stuff.
I'll say on the last note, we can move into more positive talk. Just the DiVincenzo 3-point attempts last night. I think you could just put a cut of all of those attempts, makes and misses together, and you can explain the season that way. And it's half-assed closeout, bad rotation, didn't pick up in transition. It's like runs the gamut of like different things that you can't pin it down to one thing. And I think that's what you just said about this team. Like, it's effort, it's execution, it's know your player, who you're guarding, like all that stuff.
Brad rotates to the corner on the one in the mid-third quarter, and then Kevin and Brad. Like, Kevin's on Ant, so I think it's Book's rotation more than anyone, but both guys just staring and not even moving towards him, not even doing like the half-assed, like, let me take 2 steps and put a hand up, or let me jump. The Luke Cornett, is that what they call it? When you jump from like 15 feet away.
And you try to distract. You're playing...
anything would be great.
Curtain of distraction.
And then again, Memphis, like, off a make... Memphis is not moving the ball up that fast. Brad is just completely zoned out on the middle of the floor, and Ja just cuts behind him for an alley-oop. Mm-hmm. It's just like this type of stuff where they're clearly not mentally engaged enough right now. And again, I just think it's apathy. I just think that they have reached that point of acceptance where this is what it is. It's not fixable. And they're past the point of putting in playoff-level intensity effort to fix it. That was the case in mid-December last year. It was the case mid-December this year. And hopefully I'm talking about something else in mid-December next year.
Bol Bol, it's been good ever since the Shaq All-Star game. Did you watch the All-Star game with the audio?
Yep.
Yeah.
I did not watch it with the audio on, but I saw the clips.
Yeah. But we'll end here because Bol Bol's looked good. He's looked confident. He's not standing out for bad reasons, I would say, and being like, oh, he's not in the right defensive position completely. Like, yeah, he's a step off, he's a step slow sometimes, but like his effort, his contributions have been there. Like, what are you seeing from him?
Overall, it has been a high positive. I'll say that because I'm going to get into some of like the critical stuff here in a bit. But he's just like an extremely gifted scorer. I did not know his touch was this good. Like all the mid-range stuff, that's the thing, is like he was over that 3-game sample that he started. He was 13 for 15 on twos, and I think 2 of those were at the rim, and that's it. It's just a bunch of middies and floaters and all that kind of stuff, and his touch is just insane. And he's clearly at the point where guys closing out to him, if they close out to him for some reason from 3, which happened a couple of times over those games, he's just going to take 2 or 3 dribbles and get to his spot, whether it's the floater, whether it's the pull-up. And he can do that, and he was hitting threes prior to last night. He was, I think, 10 for 18 from 3 over those 3 games. So he's just like, it was at the point over that 3-game sample where he looked like not an elite offensive player, but like, I mean, close. Like it was just as a secondary, supplementary, second side kind of guy.
Yeah,
he looked pretty elite in that regard. And then like last night happened, and like that's just going to be ups and downs for him are going to be there. But it's just a matter of how he can impact the game in other places to hold a rotation spot. And that's still just tough. Like it's not one play, but the Aldama 3, like, that's on him. You play it back. Plumlee is yelling for Bol. He's yelling for Bol when it's too late, to be clear. Like, he's yelling, and then Aldama's winding up, but it's also like, I watched it back like 10 times. Everyone's kind of looking around. Bol's got a man. Kevin's got a man. Mason is the guy without a man, but Mason is the center, and he's supposed to go back under the basket, and Bol is the perimeter player. So, again, like, maybe it was a scouting, maybe it was a game plan mix-up, and Plumlee's the one at fault here, but Bol was the guy out there, and then there's just a lot of those types of plays. The Houston game, when it wound down, it did not go well for him on either side of the ball, and that's just where it's crazy because he is playing extremely well. Don't get me wrong, he's playing extremely well, but the things that he does wrong on defense are the things that the Suns are maybe the worst at in the league right now.
Yeah.
So it's just this really weird balance of, like, they have to play him and they should play him, and he's been great, but you're just magnifying your flaws even more by playing him, and I don't think they have a choice. They just have to, but it's just interesting that they're at that point now with him. But obviously, if he keeps this up, or not like the 20 points per game kind of stuff, it's just like 13, 14 a game, stays efficient, keeps shooting threes, keeps hitting threes, definitely is someone they should look into bringing back next year and building block. And again, like, he's only in his mid-20s. Like, he's just getting started. If this can be his breakout year, it happens all the time in the league. Like, Ty Jerome's coming to town in a couple of weeks. Took him 5 years to find a team that could actually get something out of him. And he looks like a 6th Man of the Year candidate. Is going to get a whole lot of money this summer. And Bol is kind of in a similar position, albeit like much lower on the totem pole, but he's in a similar position right now where he has found a team that can properly utilize what he does very well. And he is getting rewarded for it.
And I think they would have early bird rights on him and be able to bring him back at least better chances that he's been around 2 years.
He is the bright side of the next 20 games, basically.
Yeah.
He is one of the not few reasons worth watching, because there's still reasons worth watching no matter what. But he is like the one thing you're going to be looking forward to for the next 20 games. Like, if injuries come up for the big three or whatever, it's like, great. Like, let's see Bol take 20 shots. Like, he had a couple of those games where he took like 16 or something. I think I walked in to do the post game with Mitch. He's like, Bol, like 8 for 16. I was like, he took 16 shots? What? But in a good way, where I was just like, oh my gosh, I did not know he was able to, or really anyone else on the team was going to be able to get those types of shots up around the three guys, but he was able to do it.
Yeah, and to me, I think he unlocks, which other thing that just happened and we haven't really touched on a while ago is Iguodala just being out of the rotation completely. I mean, this is months. Probably we should have talked about it, but like, I think those two fit together really well just because of the shooting and non-shooting abilities and the cross matches and stuff at center and power forward. So I don't know. I'd like to see how that kind of goes with more Bol minutes and just him. You would think getting more reps kind of, you teach hey, you missed the Aldama 3, and then those things start to get eliminated. But obviously, you got to have some consistency around him to help him do that.
Richards is closing more. Did not go well against New Orleans, but you just got to play him and have him learn through the mistakes. And I think the main thing for him is the, like, Kelly Olynyk tree of, like, just little, like, pushes in the back and, like, grabbing at you and stuff, like grabbing your arm as you drive. Those kind of, like, inside baseball things that guys do all the time in the league are the things where he's constantly looking around and being like, how is that not a foul? You called it on that end. And it's just like these little intricacies that guys like Mason Plumlee just have down.
Getting away with it. Yeah.
And he needs to figure out, like, the balance of that. It's like, how is that not a moving screen on that end? When I'm a moving screen, I'm setting the same exact screen. It's like, well, like, you're not doing like the little wrinkle there. And they're picking up on those things, but it's good to see him closing games. And you would hope that Dunn getting minutes continues. Guess what? Getting tossed out of the rotation as a rookie completely kills your confidence as a shooter, and you start shooting like crap. Who could have seen that coming? So hopefully he gets to keep playing, because the shots are going to go in for him eventually. But it's just he had to start from zero. This thing that I've referenced on this podcast for a while, I haven't brought it up in a long time. So a long time people will remember this. Like when Jared Dudley was here, we talked about, like, coming off the bench as a shooter is like one of the hardest things to do in the league, because there will be a 3-week stretch where you're taking 9 shots a game, you're taking 5 threes a game, and you feel great. And then all of a sudden for 2 weeks, you've taken 4 total shots in a game. Mm-hmm. And then you just have to go out there again. It's like, okay, now it's time for 9 shots a game again. And it's like, well, I was sitting there for 2 weeks, like not doing anything basically.
Did he make one last night? And it was like the toughest one because I think the shot clock was winding down and he just had to I think he took a dribble, right wing, popped it. And it's like, yeah, when you just went to muscle memory and not overthinking, they're leaving me wide the hell open. He made that one. So yeah, it's a rhythm thing. It's a confidence thing. It's going back to practice and getting up with game speed quick. That's going to be his challenge, but anything else?
No.
Cats talk?
No. I'm good, man.
It's not been great there either. Okay.
We'll get something in before the tournament, but
Yeah, no. All right.
There's a Caleb Love conversation to have, and not the type of Caleb Love conversation people think that we're going to have. It's, again, like second straight year where he has to be point guard this year, and that's not very fun. That sound familiar? People having to play point guard?
Jaden Bradley.
Because there's no better alternative, even though there are point guards on the team, but he's probably just the best point guard anyway, so he has to do it anyway. Sound like anyone you know?
No. All right.
Bye, bud.
Bye-bye.